Hey everyone, this is Chantal, the president of the Land of Brand, and you have reached the LOBoratory, which is the Land of Brand Laboratory, and it's the place where we meet every Wednesday, 12 o'clock Eastern, and we explore different experiments in your brand. Sometimes those experiments will be strategies, tools, software, or sometimes they're just different mindsets to try on. And I believe that the only way to grow your business is to consistently experiment, reflect, and adjust. So that's why we have these weekly calls to give you different things to experiment, reflect, and adjust with. And I also share, what's working and not working at the Land of Brand. Today we're going to talk about the best way to sell more of your packages and programs. And I say that a little bit tongue-in-cheek. So everyone's going to tell you that their way is the best way to sell, whether that be webinars, speaking, doing video launch sequences, your sales conversations, Facebook ads, really good copywriting. There's all these different tactics you can learn to be able to sell more. And then some will tell you that it really depends on your personality and your strengths and what feels right to you on whether or not these are going to work for you, which is all true. However, my way really is the best, and it will suit any personality type out there and any place in your business. And it doesn't cost you a thing, and that is to actually try selling something. Now, before you get irritated and jump off the webinar, let me explain this. Because it's not quite as simple as it sounds at first, and it's not quite as sarcastic as it sounds at first either. Let me ask you this. Are you guilty of any of these? Your broadcast, so that could be your newsletters, just any email that's going out to your list, mainly consist of news, free content like pure articles, and free offers such as joint venture webinars or your own webinars. But basically, you're always giving because you don't want to annoy your list. Maybe you're afraid of sending emails because people unsubscribe every time you do, and that physically causes you pain when I can assure you that it shouldn't. You should not take that personally. Some people are so gun shy of actually trying to sell something that they never do. Another common pitfall is to load your webinar with so much non-fluff and you're burying your offer because you're afraid of being seen as salesy. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't put content in your webinars, like real usable content. If you guys have been on any of my webinars, you know that I am a true believer in giving. However, you still need to sell something. You still need to find the balance between giving really great content and building trust and helping people like you want to, and also making sure that they understand the value in what it is you're selling and inviting them to work with you. And then last but not least, you're not sending anything to your list or promoting anything because you're always preparing your offer. So maybe you're creating your system, maybe you're recording videos, maybe you're writing all of the content, and you're constantly working on getting ready to for what you're going to sell. But if that takes you more than just a few weeks, then you're stalling. And that stalling could come from a variety of limiting beliefs. But if you're guilty of any of these things, and I can tell you that at one point or another, I've been guilty of all of them at least once, and many of my clients have also been guilty of these. So I want you to know that you're in good company, and this is not anything to be ashamed of. You need to understand that a successful business requires balance. It can't all just be content and goodwill. There also needs to be an element of actually selling something. So I actually have the wrong date on this slide. It was 2016 when I went to traffic and conversion with Ryan Dice. He said something, and this is loosely, like this is from memory, it's interpreted, it is not word for word, so do not put this on a quote or anything. Basically, what he said in his opening keynote for the entire 3-day summit was how you communicate with your audience is a lot like how you handle currency. So delivering your brand, and then what he meant by that was sharing content, goodwill, and delivering your message and helping people will fill up the bank. And then doing promotions and selling is like making a withdrawal. So there has to be a give and a take. So in his model, he gives great content up front, and then he makes an offer on the back end. Anything, every single piece of content he has, there's always something attached to it that will lead into his sales funnels. And his sales funnels are very, very content forward, and they're also very, very, I don't want to say aggressive sales, but very intentional and transparent that this is about selling something. So he has struck just this beautiful balance that I think many of us would do really well to model. So most coaches are not making enough withdrawals. They're so focused on creating content because that's the easy part. You know so much and you have such a big heart and you want to help people that part's easy. And when something feels easy, you do more of it. The hard part is when it comes to putting yourself on the line and asking for the sale, inviting people to work with you. Because there's that fear that if you do that, what if you don't get a response? Does that mean you're a failure? Does that mean that no one wants what you have? There's all of these fears attached to making that action of actually trying to sell something that keeps you from doing it. And the reality is, you have to do it anyway. This is a business. And if you want to be successful, then you need to be actually selling something. So there's 2 reasons why. Oh, so I forgot about this slide. So I already talked about fear. The other reason that people might not be selling is because they're not really sure how. How do I work in making an offer into my content? How do I write an email where I'm asking for a sale? How do I write my pitch? So how, a lot of people teach that. There's lots of courses and experts that will teach you that. I'm going to give you some examples on where you should be selling, and then some examples of what you would be doing in each of those scenarios to get you started. So you want to create habits. I've been talking about habits a lot lately because they are so important to your business, to getting better at running your business, as well as getting more efficient. So here are some habits that you should create, or you need to create. One is sending more emails than just your newsletter. I did this for years. And part of that was because I had a lot of referrals coming in and business, people coming into my website and jumping right into packages. So I wasn't really needing to actively sell. And this was like a few years ago when, there wasn't quite as much competition. So I got into a habit of just sending out newsletters. But then that had to evolve as not as many leads were coming in, and I needed to actively sell. So I had to figure out, what else do I send other than my newsletters in order to bring in sales? Success stories are one. You could write about a conversation that you had with a client, or a success story that was shared with you, and how, this is what you do. This is just demonstrating that this is the power of your work. And by the way, I have this many number of seats open this month. If you need help here too, contact me. It's that easy. Testimonials. Very much like a story, but instead of being third person, you're actually sharing a testimonial that a client actually said to you. Promotions for your stuff. So broadcasts about the product that you're selling, or the webinar that you're hosting, or whatever it is. Sometimes we get stuck, either writing newsletters or promoting other people's things because we're afraid of trying to sell our own things. Another habit you want to create is having at least one big sales activity per month. And this might change depending on your business model. If you launch every 3 months, or you need to do every 2 weeks because you're starting out and you really need to get more leads in the pipeline in the short term. For me, this is one big sales activity a month. And what that looks like is either a webinar to my list or a webinar to a JV's list. So that's mine. Yours doesn't have to look like that. It could also be, having a launch sequence, doing a JV promo, as in a JV promoting you. So scheduling and knowing what your time frame is, how often you need to have a big activity in order to keep consistently it's coming in, and then creating a habit around that and doing it consistently. Another one would be putting offers at the end of the content you're creating. When you're writing a blog post, you're delivering a ton of value. There is no reason that someplace in that post, if not at the very end, you shouldn't say, this is what I do for people. If you want help, go here. If you want help, contact me. Do you have questions about this? Let me know. I do this every single day. You can also point to products that go deeper. This is something I was just talking about Ryan Dice and what he does with Digital Marketer. Brilliant the way they do this. They will have a blog post about, let's say, like the 21 blog post titles that convert really well. And then at the bottom, he'll have an opt-in, or he'll have a link that goes to what the next step would be, which might be putting together an editorial calendar, or it might be 100 more topics, or maybe the actual research and replicatable information that you can take and use to implement the content. So try writing your post and inserting something in there that points to an offer or an opportunity for you to actually sell something. Offering strategy sessions for exploring options to get help. I already talked about that one. On your social media, you can do the same thing. A lot of this I've been talking about is really going to your list and on your website, but social media is the same thing. And how often you do this depends on your activity level and what your social media strategy is. But for me, maybe it's once a week. If I'm posting every single day on Facebook, then sometimes twice a day. If I have a webinar or something, then maybe I will do 1 a week or 1 every 2 weeks. That's literally just, hey, guess what? I sell stuff. You can use an image with testimonials or a quote from a client on Canva. You could link to a product sales page with a success story. So, Judy did X, Y, and Z when she went through this program. Many clients are getting the same result. Check it out. Link. Offering strategy sessions on social media. Something as simple as, hey, I have some spots open. If you're looking for help with X, Y, Z, then maybe we should talk. Maybe this is your sign that it is time to work on this. And just post those things. So basically, you're just consistently making offers in a lot of different avenues and building habits around it. As you build habits, making offers and actually selling things becomes a lot easier. You start to strike that balance. And just like anything, it's going to be harder in the beginning than as you do it more and more and more. So if your sales aren't what you want them to be, check how often you're actually selling. And this is time to get really real with yourself. Are you really selling? Or are you really trying to get people to like you? So that was my short and quick spiel on the best way to sell. And again, like I said, that's kind of tongue-in-cheek, but literally, if you're not actually selling something, which many coaches are not, then you're going to have a hard time making sales. Kind of goes, hand in hand. None of those other things are going to work. And next week, if you guys have any questions, feel free to post them in the Q&A or the chat. So I'm going to talk about, while I'm seeing if there's any questions, I'm going to just tell you about what we're going to talk about next week. So September 13th, 12 o'clock Eastern, we're going to talk about how to become the best control freak you can be. So what this means is, how do you control your business? Like, how do you control who is coming into your business, what you're able to offer, instead of coming from a reactionary place, which again, many coaches do because they believe that that's all they can do. That you serve who is coming to you instead of deciding who you want to come to you, and then how do you actually control that flow. So I don't see any questions, and so I'm going to bid you adieu. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you next week. Bye, everyone. That is, if I can get the thing to come down so I can actually close the webinar. Bye.